Yeah, it's a little cockeyed, sorry. But I'm just doing this live and I'm doing it for fun, so no big deal. Anyway, actually, I think I might be able to. I don't know if that's any better. Anyway, probably making people sick or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think this is still pointed the right direction. Yeah, for the most part. So, anyway, I'm doing 12-week year planning. Yes, I have a cold. Yes, my voice sounds weird. Yes, you're coming through on a different microphone. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk through this for a minute because, yeah, this is what I'm working on for the next 3 months. Getting a 90% fill rate on sponsorships, documenting all podcast processes, and completing the PodWrench migration, which is the software we're working on for building new podcasts. So, 12-week year says that you set goals. And anyway, I usually set 3. So that's kind of what I'm doing. Sometimes I may add a 4th one that's just kind of a personal thing for me, but these are the 3 for the business. And the reason I have 3 for the business is because then I can hand this off to my team, right? So for this one, for example, my team's going to help me with a lot of this. I'm also going to wind up doing the sponsorship process. And that's going to be me. And the reason that it's me is because I've been doing this myself for a while. I had somebody helping me with some of it, but they kind of flaked. So I've kind of taken it all over, but I'd like to get to the point where I can kind of outsource some of that. Not necessarily like the sales or talking to sponsors, though Michelle does a lot of that for me. Mostly what I'm talking about here is identifying new sponsors, doing the initial outreach, letting them know what we offered them, that kind of thing. So that's what we're looking at here for this stuff. But this also then ties back into number 1, right? And there's a little bit of this that also ties in here, but not as much. Because PodWrench is how we're going to manage sponsorships once we have it ready. And currently it does manage which banners show up and stuff. But we're probably going to have to change the way PodWrench manages sponsorships because the way that it does it now isn't quite the way that I want it to work. So, anyway, all of that being said, let's go ahead and ignore this for the time being because what we're working on now is tactics. And if you can see much of this, I've actually got a 3-month calendar here, which is roughly 12 weeks. It's actually 15 weeks because, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks on here. So what we're doing right now is we're setting up tactics, okay? And this blue is really weak. So I'm going to switch blues and see if this one works better. It looks like it should. Might be a little bit dry. We'll see. Anyway, so tactics for this guy, and yes, this is my handwriting too. Funny? Yeah, okay. Anyway. So 90% fill on sponsorship. So the first thing that I need to do every week, so these are weekly, okay? So weekly I'm going to reach out to, what's a good number? Well, I want to fill them fast, right? So let's say 15 new potential sponsors. Okay? So what that means is that I have to identify 15 new companies and I have to start reaching out to them. Okay? The second tactic is I have to keep the task list in HubSpot empty. So this is essentially inbox 0. Okay. Now for the first week, it's going to have 2 tactics. Okay. So A is everything, because I've got a bunch of tasks in there now for for my current crop of people that I'm reaching out to, right? Because I did a bunch of outreach in December. So everything added, posts. So in the new year, gets handled day of. And then anything old, we're going to do one day LinkedIn. The second day, we're going to do bomb emails, right? Third day, we're going to do Twitter. Fourth day, Facebook. And fifth day, whatever, right? So we'll do something like this. And that way, I can hit all of the same kinds of tactics and I can just batch through them, okay? And then also, and this is something I'm planning on doing, so this is before, because the 12-week year starts on the 5th, right, which is Sunday. I don't work Sundays, so it's going to be on the 6th. But anyway, so before I start, I need to have my sequences in HubSpot ready, okay? In fact, what I may do is I may change this before we get done, and what I may do is I may set up all these sequences and then just delete all the tasks and then add all of my current folks. I'll just figure out where they're all at, and then the ones that I'm still in follow-up mode on that I haven't really had a relationship with before, I may just drop them all into this, and that way I can just stay on top of it, right? Which means that first week I'm going to have a ton of task number 1, and then the second week I'm going to have a ton of task number 2. But yeah, I'm going to have to keep up on that for the follow-up. And the other thing that I need to do here is I need to document, and that's a before as well, document the follow-up tasks. Okay, so I got to do that this week. I'm also hoping to record an audiobook. I haven't been able to do it yet for very obvious vocal reasons. But yeah, so these are the tactics for this guy, okay? So then, let's go to tactics for number 2. So, tactics. Okay. So, tactics on number 2. Okay, so these are the tactics here, okay? So 1 is so I'm going to say I need to do 3 tasks or 3 processes every week. And I'm also going to make Michelle document 3 processes. And I'm going to make Asley document 3 processes. Okay? And the reason is because we all kind of have different areas of responsibility. So I tend to manage a lot of the sponsorship stuff, a lot of the host stuff. Michelle does a lot of the host onboarding and support stuff, but I do the initial outreach on a lot of that. I'm the one that gets them. I'm also the subject matter expert for most of the shows as far as like scheduling topics and things, and so I need to give them better instructions on how to find good stuff. Or it may just be that I just go in and give them lists of these are the topics and these are the people. I don't know. We'll figure that out. Right now, we have a topic that works okay, but I feel like we could do better on our topic selection. I'm also the person behind most of the technology that is involved in the website, and I'm the one that's been interfacing with our developer on Podwrench. So I'm going to be documenting a lot of that. Okay. But this is basically it, okay? And Asley's been doing a lot of our social media integration stuff. And so I want her to document all that stuff. She's also one of our show notes writers, so some of this may go between them, right? So that's kind of where we're hitting there. And then for number 3, so the tactics here are basically the way that we've worked is, and this is weekly as well, meeting between Chuck and Ferris, who's our developer. This is a little bit tricky, because if Podwrench isn't ready, we can't just move a show onto it, right? And I kind of went through the basic process of inviting guests and getting the recording schedule and all that stuff today, and it turned out there were a lot of things that needed to be changed or fixed. So yeah, that's a little bit tricky. The other thing is if I'm documenting 3 processes and I'm spending a ton of time on this, I'm probably not going to have as much time to do this. So I'm going to be counting on Ferris to get that stuff done, right? So, but yeah, so this is kind of the critical piece. And then, yeah, so I am going to, Chuck, review 1 set of processes each week. I guess I have weekly right there, right? And then Ferris will estimate each change, so we can start tracking velocity, right? So then I know where we're at with a lot of this stuff, and I can prioritize. So then I can go in and I can say, oh, quit doing that, right? Don't worry about that. That's not MVP. That's, MVP plus 2 or 3, right? And so I can set prioritize, and then Chuck, prioritize in Basecamp. Right? And so all of these things need to happen every week. And that way we can know if we're on track, if we're not on track, where we're looking, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully we can get through this pretty fast. What I'd like to do on this one in particular is I'd like to get the shows where I'm the only host, get those on and running within the next month or so. And then what I can do is then I can start pulling our other hosts in, right? So then I bring JavaScript Jabber in, get all those hosts onboarded, everything's happy, everything's good, we're good to go, and then we can move along to the next phase, right? So once I have, 4 or 5 of the shows that because I'm a co-host on some of these shows too, so we'll start with shows where I'm the only host, and then we'll move to the shows where I am one of the hosts, and then we'll finally add in at the end all of the shows where I am not a host or not on a regular basis. So that will change the landscape of this a little bit. But yeah, so that's the plan. So then what we do is, let's see if I can rearrange this stuff a little bit. And we'll turn you a bit, and then I'll just double check and make sure it's pointed to the calendar. Yeah, it's pointed to the calendar, right? So let's pull this down just a smidge. So this is 2020. So if we look at this right, then 2020. So this is January, and so this is 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th. So for our tactics, 15 new potential sponsors. Now my days that I'm usually free, or freer anyway, are Monday and Thursday. But what I find is if I start reaching out to people on Monday, and do the follow-up through the week, that's usually more effective. So what that means is that I need to have 15 new sponsors. Okay. And I need to do that the 13th, 20th, 27th, 15 sponsors. 15 sponsors. 15 sponsors. Right. I'm bad at math. 28, 29, 30, 31, 1, 2. So this is the third. 15 new sponsors. Okay. That would make this the 10th, 17th, 24th. Again, bad at math. 15, 16, 17, 8, or 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, it is a leap year. 1, 2. Sorry, I'm bad at date math. I'm decent at math anyway. So this is the second. This is the 9th, 16th, 23rd, 30th. And this is the end of the 12-week year. So this is the end right here. Okay. So 15 new sponsors. 15 new sponsors. 15 new sponsors. Hey, there we go. 15 NS. 15 NS. 15 NS. 15 NS. Okay, so that's our 12 weeks. Then we have to do all the follow-up on the task list. So we'll just do, since that's basically every day, I'm just going to leave it, okay? Or maybe I'll do this. HubSpot. 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 And this is just a visual thing for me. I'll probably also add tasks for all this stuff in Basecamp. But yeah, HubSpot. Now, one thing that I do have to keep in mind is that I usually wind up on a trip with my wife around here with my wife and my in-laws. So, there might be a little bit of a, HubSpot. HubSpot. There. Okay. So, that's done. And this is more or less part of this. So the week one, I don't think you can see it, but the week one where I had all the extras, yeah. So sequences in HubSpot, document follow-up tasks, that's all this week, right? So it's not going to go on here. So let's come look at this. So meeting between Chuck and Ferris, that's already on my calendar. So I'm not going to worry about it. I'm not going to put it on here. But we meet on Mondays, generally. Review one set of processes. Now, what I'm looking at here is so Monday, I think just the finding 15 new sponsors and then keeping HubSpot happy is going to be most of my day. Okay, just putting it out there. Tuesdays generally are a little bit crazy. One thing that I could add in here for tactics for some of this is, and I'll just put it right here, find hosts. And the reason is if I can find enough hosts and get the shows running, because some of the shows I'm not really a subject matter expert on. And so, for example, iPhreaks, right? I'm on iPhreaks right now because I need to be there and make sure it runs because the other hosts are pretty new. And if I can get it to the point where it'll run by itself without me, then that opens up an hour or so every Tuesday, right, when they record. So finding hosts is kind of a critical piece to that. Now, that's not a tactic. Find hosts is not a tactic because it's not something that I can check off, right? Instead, it's probably going to be reach out to 5 potential hosts every week, right? So, so we'll do that. Well, yeah, I'll add it to the task list. In fact, I have, incidentally, I have this little doodad I'll show you. So this is a weekly planner, but generally what I do is I just put in the tasks that I have to do every day. And one of these was 1 Pomodoro finding hosts, so I'll probably just do that every day until I have those host spots filled. Anyway, so what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to pick a different day to do Podwrench stuff and documentation stuff. My most commonly open day is Thursday, okay? And these two things can happen whenever, right? So, and Ferris is going to do the estimations when he does it, right? So, in fact, I'm not even going to put it on here. Well, I should, because it gives me that visualization. So, the other thing is like I said, this weekend right here, which is the 18th. Great. 20, 21, 22. You can't see it. 23. There we go. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, right? So on these, so we usually leave on the 21st. I think sometimes we leave on the Thursday. Anyway, so I may wind up moving something to Wednesday or Tuesday, right? So, but yeah, for the rest of this, I'm gonna put documentation on Thursday. Doc. I'm gonna put it on Thursday because I think we leave Thursday afternoon. If I'm wrong, I'll move it. Doc. Okay, so the documentation, this is taken care of. And then I'm also going to put Podwrench on here, so PW. And that means review the processes and prioritize stuff in Basecamp, okay? So PW. Okay, so that's pretty much everything in here that belongs to me. So now the rest of this I need to go back in and I need to inform my team, hey look, I need you to document 3 processes, you too. You know, I need, you know, we meet every week, but I need you to start estimating, right? So anyway, that's more or less where we're gonna hit from here. But this gives me kind of a visual on where we come in for the 12-week year. And then the other thing is I tend to use these 3 weeks to fill in stuff that has to happen next time, right? So maybe, because one of the other things I really want to do is I really want to get that 100 Days of View challenge that I have up. Wow, what was that? Anyway, 100 Days of View challenge to in here somewhere, right? But it's tough with, you know, this kind of stuff filling the day, so we'll have to see. But anyway, so that's kind of the deal here. So we'll just put it all together, and we'll see where things go from there. But yeah, that's more or less where things are sitting right here. So I may put this find host. In fact, I may put this in here somewhere too, probably on Fridays, right? So find hosts, find hosts, find hosts, find hosts, find hosts. And with Podwrench, the other thing is that we have the concept of backup hosts. And so this may include shows that currently have enough hosts. It may be, okay, if we don't have enough people say they want to be a host, we add them into the mix, right? And so then Podwrench does have an RSVP for hosts. And so then they know that if they RSVP know that we'll reach out to one of the other people on the list. So anyway, that should take care of that. But yeah, so something that might come in here next time is beta for Podwrench, right? Depending on where we are at, right? Or I might wind up writing a book for that 12-week year or something like that. So I'll probably write a whole bunch of ideas here for that, and then we can kind of go from there. Or it may turn out that I need to do another one where I'm filling sponsorships again. I'm hoping though that if I get to the 90% fill on sponsorships by the end of this time, and by 90% I mean 90% of everything for the next 3 months, right? What I'm hoping is that then I can start relying on renewals and I don't have to work as hard to get a 90% fill next time, right? And so then that becomes a routine thing, and I don't have to do a 12-week year focus on that. It's just a regular business function that somebody handles for me, and then maybe I do the sales calls or whatever, right? So that's kind of where we're looking for some of this stuff. So anyway, but yeah, that's the story. So that's my 12-week year. That's kind of what we're looking at. Yeah, so that's the plan. That's the plan for the next 12-week year, or the next 3 months, basically. So that we can just knock it out of the park. But yeah, if we can get all of that stuff ready and done, then we can start expanding, right? So then we can add. Here's the other thing is a lot of this is aimed toward the future, right? So I'm going to assume you can see this again. In fact, I should just look. Yeah, you can see it. Okay. So if I get this done right, then it builds momentum, right? Because the next time around, hopefully a certain number will renew, and then I can work to fill the rest of those spots for Q3, because 90% fill on Q2. Hopefully I can fill a bunch of spots on Q1 too, some of the spots that I have open, but yeah. Anyway, document all the podcast processes. The nice thing there is then we can start to optimize them, right? And we can, the other thing is I'd like to put out like a podcast blueprint that people can buy, right? But as we bring people in as hosts or guests or whatever, they just know what the process is. It's like, hey, here's the process, here's what we do. And then Podwrench, the other thing is this feeds into this because it tells us what we need to build into Podwrench, right? Anything that we can automate, we can build into Podwrench. The other thing is we also wind up documenting Podwrench as we do this, right? As we migrate over. And so those two are very closely related, but then it gets us that momentum with everything else, right? So if Podwrench makes it easier for our show notes writers, then we can pay them the same, and with that same amount of work, right? We're not gonna make them do more. We're gonna make Podwrench do more for them, and then we're gonna make them, pick up the rest of the slack, but they're gonna be still doing the same amount of work. And so what this does is then it allows us to, just to work through all of this and get more out of our show notes writers because we have a system that's doing the rest of that work. So all in all, it just kind of makes things a little bit cleaner, a little bit smoother, right? If we get 8 episodes ahead recording on some podcast, right, and our editors want to get ahead, they can, right? And then they hand it off to the show notes people, and the show notes people get that far ahead, right? And so Podwrench will enable all of this. The processes are all pretty self-explanatory. That's all done. maybe we hire somebody else, they take a look at the process and they say, well, why are we doing it this way? Why don't we do it this other way? The other way is better, right? So then the processes get better, which makes PodWrench better. So anyway, it's a very virtuous cycle, but then this allows us to start moving faster, right? And so once we're moving along at a pretty good clip, maybe something else comes up into this list next quarter, and it opens things up and really, it really allows us to take advantage of what we got. So that's kind of what we're looking at here for Q1. So yeah, that's the plan. I don't know that I necessarily planned on doing this in front of the camera, but there you go. I mean, that's what we're working on right now. The other thing is that if we can get PodWrench working the way we want, then it also opens us up to being able to sell more sponsorships for more podcasts, because we currently represent 2 other podcasts and 3 or 4 newsletters for sponsorship, and just having this process in place will allow us to cleanly do that and bring more of those in as well. So anyway, it's kind of a win-win-win for everybody. But yeah, that's where we're at. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and shut off the sharing now, and I hope you enjoyed that.